Was Michelle Pfeiffer's big return to television canceled before it even began? For months, Hollywood whispers promised a dramatic Yellowstone spin-off starring Pfeiffer, a project that could have been one of the most talked-about TV events of the decade. But instead of a triumphant comeback, rumors of delays, rewrites, and sudden changes have left fans wondering, was Pfeiffer's Yellowstone story killed by Taylor Sheridan's behind-the-scenes chaos? Or did something else happen that no one wants to talk about? To understand why this story matters, we first need to look at Michelle Pfeiffer's career itself, because she isn't just any actress. She's one of the last true movie stars. From Hollywood's golden era of the 1980s and 1990s, Pfeiffer's name alone once guaranteed box office attention. From Scarface to The Witches of Eastwick, from Dangerous Liaisons to Batman Returns, she was at the center of Hollywood's biggest films. Pfeiffer didn't just play characters, she owned them. Her Catwoman in Batman Returns wasn't just a comic book role, it was an iconic performance that redefined the character for decades to come. She had the beauty, the charisma, and the acting power that made her stand out in an era packed with stars. But something changed in the early 2000s. Hollywood moved toward superhero blockbusters, CGI epics, and franchise-driven films. And Pfeiffer, unlike some of her peers, began to step back. She chose family and privacy over non-stop work. For nearly a decade, she was rarely seen on screen, and while she wasn't forgotten, she wasn't front and center anymore. In Hollywood terms, that's a dangerous place to be. Out of sight often means out of mind, no matter how much talent you have. Then, a few years ago, Michelle Pfeiffer began what many critics called her quiet comeback. She returned in supporting roles, showing audiences and producers that she hadn't lost an ounce of her power. In Mother, she was unsettling and magnetic. In Murder on the Orient Express, she held her own in a crowded ensemble cast. And when she stepped into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Janet Van Dyne in Ant-Man and the Wasp, she suddenly found herself in front of an entirely new generation of fans. Pfeiffer was back and she was proving she could move seamlessly between art house roles and blockbuster spectacles. Still, what Pfeiffer hadn't yet done was television. And that's important, because the world of television had changed dramatically since she left the spotlight. No longer just a step down from film, television had become the new home for prestige storytelling. Shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and yes, Yellowstone, became cultural juggernauts for an actress of Pfeiffer's stature. Moving to television wasn't a downgrade, it was a chance to reinvent herself. Just as Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon had done with Big Little Lies. Or Kate Winslet in Mare of Easttown. And that's where Yellowstone comes in. For Michelle Pfeiffer, Yellowstone represented not just another job, but potentially the perfect stage for a new chapter in her career. Imagine it, one of Hollywood's most iconic actresses stepping into the gritty, modern Western world of Taylor Sheridan's storytelling empire. It wasn't just casting, it was destiny. Fans were excited. Industry insiders whispered that this could be her big television moment. The kind of role that would remind everyone why Pfeiffer was once untouchable. But, as with so many stories in Hollywood, what looked perfect on paper soon began to unravel. To understand why Michelle Pfeiffer's potential role in Yellowstone carried so much weight, we need to look at the empire she was about to step into, because Yellowstone isn't just another TV drama, it's one of the biggest cultural phenomenons of the past decade. When Yellowstone first aired in 2018, no one expected it to become the giant it is today. At a time when audiences were drowning in superheroes, fantasy series, and endless reboots, Taylor Sheridan offered something different. A grounded, raw, modern Western about family, land, and power. The Dutton family, with Kevin Costner at the helm as John Dutton, represented old-school American grit, clashing with the unstoppable forces of change, big business, politics, and shifting cultural tides. Viewers didn't just watch the show, they devoured it. Ratings grew season after season. Yellowstone became a rare crossover hit, pulling in rural audiences, urban fans, older viewers, and younger generations alike. By 2022, it was the most-watched drama on cable, beating out shows on streaming giants with massive budgets. And in an era where live TV was supposed to be dead, Yellowstone was proving the opposite. At the center of all this success was Taylor Sheridan, a former actor turned writer-director. Sheridan built his reputation with gritty, character-driven stories like Sicario and Hell or High Water before turning to television. With Yellowstone, He didn't just create a show, he built an empire. Prequels like 1883 and 1923 expanded the Dutton family saga. Spin-offs like Lawman, Base Reeves widened the Sheridan universe. At one point, Sheridan reportedly had more than half a dozen projects in active development for Paramount. Sheridan's power in Hollywood became almost mythic. He negotiated one of the most lucrative deals with Paramount, giving him creative control over nearly everything he touched. If he wanted to shoot on his Texas ranch, Paramount paid for it. If he wanted to write scripts last minute, the network adjusted its schedule. If Sheridan wanted a star, he usually got them. His empire was sprawling, expensive, and for Paramount, wildly profitable. But here's the other side of Sheridan's success. Behind the curtain, his reputation is more complicated. On one hand, he's praised as a visionary who knows exactly what audiences want. On the other, he's described as difficult, controlling, and resistant to compromise. Stories have circulated of sudden script rewrites, ballooning budgets, and clashes with executives. Even Kevin Costner's exit from Yellowstone has been surrounded by rumors of behind-the-scenes disputes. With Sheridan's iron grip often at the center of speculation. This duality, creative genius and unpredictable showrunner, sets the stage for why Michelle Pfeiffer's involvement mattered so much. For Pfeiffer, working with Sheridan could mean a high-profile role in one of the most powerful TV universes in existence. But it also meant entering Sheridan's world, where he calls the shots. And where not every star walks away happy. Imagine the stakes. Michelle Pfeiffer, a Hollywood legend, finally making her television debut under the guidance of Taylor Sheridan, the reigning king of prestige westerns. On paper, it looked like the kind of pairing that could dominate awards season and reignite Pfeiffer's career in ways movies alone couldn't. But Hollywood isn't built on paper. It's built on egos, deadlines, budgets, and conflicting visions. And when a powerhouse like Pfeiffer meets a force of nature like Sheridan, sparks are inevitable. And soon, those sparks would set off rumors of delays, disagreements, and ultimately, cancellation whispers. By the time rumors began swirling about Michelle Pfeiffer stepping into the Yellowstone universe, the excitement wasn't just about another spin-off. This was about the possibility of seeing one of Hollywood's most iconic actresses stepping into the kind of role that could redefine her career. For Yellowstone fans, it was like a dream pairing, Pfeiffer's commanding screen presence colliding with Sheridan's gritty storytelling. Reports suggested that Pfeiffer was in talks for a limited series connected to the Dutton family saga. Some insiders claimed it would be a brand new storyline, separate from 1883 or 1923, yet still deeply tied to the Yellowstone legacy. The whispers hinted at Pfeiffer possibly playing a matriarchal figure, a woman with power, secrets, and a history that would connect her character to the sprawling Dutton empire. Others speculated she might star in a completely standalone Sheridan project, the kind of modern Western drama he loves, where family loyalty and survival clash with greed and violence. Whatever the truth, what mattered most was the sense of possibility. Pfeiffer wasn't just being rumored for a cameo. This wasn't a stunt casting. She was being positioned as the anchor of a major Sheridan project, potentially carrying an entire series on her shoulders. And in today's television landscape, that matters. Prestige dramas live or die by their lead. Nicole Kidman made Big Little Lies a global conversation. Kate Winslet turned Mare of Easttown into a cultural obsession. Pfeiffer's name carried that same weight, if not more. For Paramount, her involvement would have been a coup. The network has poured hundreds of millions into Sheridan's empire, but star power always helps. Pfeiffer's presence could lure in older audiences who remembered her peak years, while also drawing in younger viewers curious about seeing her in a gritty modern role. In the streaming wars, where every network fights for attention, attaching Michelle Pfeiffer to a Yellowstone project would have made headlines around the world. And for Pfeiffer herself, this was the perfect move. After years of slowly re-entering Hollywood, here was a chance to fully step back into the spotlight with a role that promised complexity and prestige. Unlike the Marvel films, where she was part of a large ensemble, this would give her the space to shine as a lead again. It was the kind of career-defining television role that could win Emmys, maybe even Golden Globes. Critics would pay attention. Awards voters would pay attention. Everyone would. And for Pfeiffer herself, this was the perfect move. After years of slowly re-entering Hollywood, Here was a chance to fully step back into the spotlight with a role that promised complexity and prestige. Unlike the Marvel films, where she was part of a large ensemble, this would give her the space to shine as a lead again. It was the kind of career-defining television role that could win Emmys, maybe even Golden Globes. Critics would pay attention. Awards voters would pay attention. Everyone would. The buzz didn't stop with the media. Fans were thrilled at the idea. Online forums lit up with speculation about who she might play. Some hoped she'd appear as a long-lost Dutton relative, bringing elegance and cunning to the ranch. Others imagined her as a ruthless political player, a rival who could finally challenge the Duttons on their own turf. The possibilities were endless and the hype machine was in full motion. But in Hollywood, the higher the expectations, the bigger the risks. While excitement grew in public, behind closed doors, Sheridan's creative process was reportedly becoming more complicated. Deadlines were shifting. Storylines were being rewritten. Pfeiffer's rumored role was expanding, then shrinking, then shifting again depending on which source you believed. One week, she was the centerpiece. The next, she was a supporting character. It was becoming clear that while the Pfeiffer project looked unstoppable from the outside, on the inside it was already facing problems. And those problems were about to explode. On the surface, Michelle Pfeiffer joining Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone universe sounded like a Hollywood dream. But behind closed doors, the partnership wasn't as smooth as fans hoped. Almost immediately, stories of shifting schedules, rewrites, and disagreements began to swirl. And for an actress like Pfeiffer, who values professionalism and structure, the cracks in Sheridan's process were impossible to ignore. Sheridan is known for his unpredictable writing style. Unlike traditional showrunners who plan seasons months in advance, Sheridan often writes on the fly. Entire scripts can change overnight. Entire characters can vanish or suddenly appear with little warning. For some actors, this can be a chance to explore spontaneity. But for others, especially those who prefer detailed preparation, it can be frustrating and exhausting. Reports suggest that Pfeiffer was caught in this storm. One week, her character was set to be the emotional core of the story. The next, her role was scaled back in favor of new plot lines. Creative meetings reportedly dragged on without resolution. Scheduling became a nightmare, with shooting dates shifting and expanding. For Pfeiffer, who carefully chooses her projects and guards her personal time, the lack of clarity may have been a deal-breaker. And Sheridan wasn't exactly making things easier. He has a reputation for running his productions like his ranches. His word is law. Networks bend to his demands, and even big stars often find themselves in his shadow. While this style has produced undeniable success, it also creates tension. Actors who are used to collaboration can feel sidelined. For someone of Pfeiffer's stature, Sheridan's refusal to compromise may have clashed with her expectations of creative partnership. Adding to the tension was money. Sheridan's shows are famously expensive, with massive location shoots, sprawling casts, and cinematic production values. Paramount had already been pouring hundreds of millions into his empire. Insiders whispered that studio executives were beginning to worry about ballooning costs, especially if Pfeiffer's salary and production needs were added to the equation. Sheridan, never one to cut corners, reportedly pushed back. This tug-of-war, between creative ambition and financial reality, only deepened the chaos. Then came the issue of tone. Pfeiffer, known for her nuanced, layered performances, reportedly wanted a character with depth and subtlety. Sheridan's style, while compelling, leans heavily into blunt, larger-than-life figures who speak in bold declarations and act with force. Some sources suggested that Pfeiffer and Sheridan couldn't quite agree on who her character should be. Was she a cold strategist? A wounded matriarch? A sympathetic figure? Sheridan's vision seemed to shift with each draft, leaving Pfeiffer frustrated. The tension wasn't just creative, it was personal. Sheridan's reputation for being protective of his vision sometimes borders on controlling. Actors who question his choices don't always last long in his projects. For Pfeiffer, stepping into television for the first time in her career, the experience may have been jarring. Unlike film, where directors often adapt to the star, in Sheridan's world, it's his way or no way. By this point, the once exciting project had become a storm of uncertainty. Scripts weren't finalized. Budgets were in dispute. And rumors began to leak out, rumors that Pfeiffer was considering walking away, or that Sheridan was quietly looking at replacements. What had begun as a perfect comeback vehicle was now teetering on the edge of collapse. Asterisk. Hollywood insiders started whispering the question no one wanted to ask. Had Michelle Pfeiffer's Yellowstone comeback already been cancelled before it even started? Asterisk. In Hollywood, big projects rarely collapse overnight. They unravel slowly, piece by piece, until one day the momentum is gone. That's exactly what seemed to happen with Michelle Pfeiffer's Yellowstone comeback. Asterisk. First came the delays. Production dates that were circled on calendars suddenly shifted. Writers were reportedly still tweaking scripts long after they should have been locked. Paramount executives grew restless, wanting a polished pitch they could market, but Sheridan was notorious for working on his own timeline. Pfeiffer, who had already carved out room in her schedule, now faced uncertainty about when or if the project would actually start shooting. Asterisk. Then came the creative confusion. Each new draft of the script painted her character differently. Some versions made her the anchor of the series, others sidelined her as a supporting role. For Pfeiffer, who had been promised a complex, career-defining character, this inconsistency was troubling. She wasn't looking for just another role, she was looking for the kind of part that would justify her long-awaited move to television. Asterisk. And behind it all, Sheridan's empire was beginning to show cracks. Kevin Costner's rumored feud with Sheridan and his exit from Yellowstone made headlines everywhere, raising questions about whether even the biggest stars could survive working under Sheridan's creative dominance. Insiders began comparing Pfeiffer's struggles with Costner's two legends, both clashing with the same powerhouse, SHOWRUNNER. Asterisk. Eventually, the buzz shifted from excitement to doubt. Industry insiders whispered that Pfeiffer was quietly stepping back. Some claimed she had officially walked away, citing scheduling conflicts. Others suggested Paramount had pulled the plug, unwilling to risk another expensive Sheridan project spinning out of control. Either way, the result was the same. The Pfeiffer Yellowstone series faded into silence. No trailers, no casting announcements, just rumors and disappointment. Asterisk. For Pfeiffer, the fallout raises tough questions. Did she dodge a bullet by avoiding Sheridan's chaotic creative world? Or did she miss the role of a lifetime, one that could have cemented her comeback in a new era of prestige TV? And for Sheridan, the incident added to his reputation as both a genius and a liability, a man who can deliver cultural phenomena, but who may also burn bridges with even the most respected talent. Asterisk. Hollywood is brutal, and the truth is rarely black and white. Maybe Pfeiffer simply didn't want to compromise on a character that wasn't right for her. Maybe Sheridan didn't want to bend his vision for anyone, not even Michelle Pfeiffer. Maybe the studio was tired of footing the bill for projects that kept ballooning out of control. Whatever the case, the result was the same. One of the most anticipated collaborations in recent TV history never made it to the screen. Asterisk. And that leaves us with the central question. Was Michelle Pfeiffer's Yellowstone comeback truly cancelled? Or was it never meant to happen in the first place? Asterisk. Because in Hollywood, sometimes a project doesn't die with a bang, it just quietly disappears, leaving fans wondering what could have been. Asterisk. So what do you think? Did Pfeiffer walk away from a creative disaster, or did Sheridan's chaos rob us of a performance that could have been legendary?